And there I was the girl from Suits.
This One's Wife. What can we expect from Lemonada podcast? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We know that this one's wife has wangled her way into getting another platform through Lemonada Media. But what might we expect by way of output from the Duchess of Industrial Beige? Well, we know one thing for certain. You're going to be treated to archetypes again. The provision of an existing podcast, which was dull, self-indulgent, uninspiring, boring to listen to, is not something that people would be looking forward to. But it is demonstrative of her laziness. It also demonstrates the delusion by which she operates, whereby she believes that it was actually interesting. Her narcissism will just cause her to focus on the fact that it got 1 million listens per episode and that it reached number 1. It won't allow her to accept the content of critical reviews of it. For instance, the hilarious weekly reviews that Hilary Rose created in the Times, lambasting the sheer ridiculousness of what she had created. It also demonstrates her absence of emotional empathy and her wholesale failure to understand the audience. She thinks that Archetypes is a magnus opus. It is a brilliant piece of podcasting because some people did listen to it, although she fails to understand the reason why many people listened to it was simply out of grudge curiosity and wanting to ridicule it. Now, you might think, well, a listen is a listen. It is. But to a narcissist, it needs to be adoration. It needs to be admiration because her narcissism tells her that she's brilliant. And therefore, it's always going to look for evidence to support that. The fact that the series was boring, that was just self-indulgent, as it was a hit list of things that people had said about her as she attempted to prove them wrong, nullifying those threats to control, demonstrates she really does not understand the audience. And in actual fact, this is demonstrative of her grandiosity, her haughtiness, her arrogance, that she thinks that these are the things that people will be interested in. In actual fact, they're not. She thinks that these are fascinating topics, but they're not. She thinks that she's brilliant at what she does, and she isn't. And the fact that you're going to be subjected to archetypes again, although, of course, you'll easily be able to swerve it, demonstrates her laziness, her deluded nature, and the fact that she doesn't understand the audience. So that's a certainty as to what's going to be provided. What's completely up in the air, nebulous and amorphous, is what else she's going to create. We're told that there's material in the pipeline, but we haven't been given any indication as to what it is. Is it interviews? Is it investigative reporting? Is it a magazine-style approach? Is it on-the-spot instances? Is it recollections of hers? We've no idea because we haven't been told anything, and that's because she hasn't yet done the work. What we also know, though, this isn't a large production outfit like Spotify. Lemonada Media is much smaller, which means they're going to need her to actually do some work, which is not something that she enjoys doing. As I've made it abundantly clear, if she can get it by just talking about it, like most narcissists, then that's all she'll do. And the fact that she's actually going to be expected to put in some graft rather than some grift is going to be problematic for her. Archwell will undoubtedly be utilised to produce content, but this costs. She needs to pay money for people to produce this, and that money is not as abundant as it once was. We also know that she thinks she knows best when she doesn't, operating with that self-entitlement, she will, in a dictatorial fashion, dictate to people what ought to be done, ignoring sound advice. People with more experience in this field than her that might suggest this is a better idea, that might not work. No, she'll cast it and poo-poo it and push it to one side because she knows better than anybody else. Will she attempt to bring up the past once again as part of this content? Are we going to hear the washing up liquid story again for the umpteenth time? Are we going to hear about what it was like working on Suits? Is she really going to tell us that the royal family were mean to her? Those are the subjects which she normally trots out because she actually has very little to talk about, because she's dull and she's led a fairly uninteresting life. She doesn't have any actual achievements. Oh yes, her self-congratulatory website wanks on about various awards that she's achieved, which she's purchased. There's no credibility attached with all of those. But what has she done? She went to university. No biggie, plenty of people have done so, and plenty of people have achieved far more at university and been to better universities than she did. She had an internship courtesy of her uncle. Wow. And then she got into the acting game, like millions of other people have done. She won any Oscars? No. Has she performed on the stage to critical acclaim? No. Has she built up a company? No. Has she been an innovator? No. Sure, she was involved in the writing of The Bench of Stench, but again, that was a load of nonsense, which was just wholesale purchased by Oprah, and rumour has it there are landfill sites dotted all around the Montecchio area, whereby Harry goes in the night to try and dump more copies of it. So what's she going to talk to us about? Well, if she talked about how she actually really met Harry and what went on, or she talked about those purported yacht days, what really went on in her pregnancies, how she met Prince Andrew, where her mother went for a number of years, what she said to Harry that has caused him not to bother about meeting her father, these are some of the juicy things that people would listen to. These are the things that people want to hear her talk about. That if she were to tell the truth of all of those things, you would get record-breaking figures. But of course, she's not going to do it, because to do so would threaten her need for control by causing certain information to be put out about her, which would be contrary to her facade. And therefore, it's just not going to happen. Her narcissism will not allow her to do it. It will not allow her to put out for public consumption. The problem that she's got, and what you can expect from her appearing in the Lemonada podcast, is an entirely superficial individual that's beige and boring. Somebody who is a very poor interviewer. She basically fouls up on the first rule of interviewing, which is it's about the interviewee, not you. As was pointed out in Archetypes, she spent more time talking than the guests did. She always had to bring it back to something that she had experienced. Indeed, when Mariah Carey referenced her being a diva, she had to effectively creep back into the studio once the coast was clear and Mariah had gone away, so that she could edit it and create an addendum to sort of talk about how, no, it was actually a compliment, wasn't it? And she didn't mean it nastily. She is a terrible interviewer because she's so self-absorbed. She's not a good listener. She always wants to get her point across, and therefore, even if she had some really interesting people come and talk, they're not going to be able to shine because they're not allowed to outshine her. What we'll witness is a copy and paste approach. She's got no intellectual depth. She's not able to grasp topics. She has no deep understanding so that she can present them a forensic way, ask probing questions. She will just look up a topic on the internet, copy and paste it and slap it in, and then talk about it. And it'll be so obvious. We will see her lazy and entitled behaviour. But also, query, If it is an interview basis podcast, who on earth is going to agree to be interviewed? She doesn't have any real friends, and the sort of faux friends have distanced themselves from her. Anybody that's a heavyweight isn't going to risk being associated with such a crapola fest as this. Why on earth would you subject yourself to banal and meandering questions and being made to feel second-rate by a self-absorbed narcissist? You've got better things to be doing if you're an A-lister, if you're a heavyweight hitter. So perhaps the only people that she's going to only be able to get are people you've not heard of, people who are scrambling to try and ascend celebritydom, and instead don't necessarily make for particularly good guests. And even if there is a nugget of gold out there, of course she'll soon turn it into fool's gold with the way that she interviews. These are my observations as what you can expect from a mid-range narcissist of the nature of this one's wife, bringing forth her podcast program. How do you think it'll pan out? What do you think we'll see? Who do you think we'll see on it? What do you think the format will be? Do you think it'll be any good? Let me know your observations in the comments section. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.